Good evening, everybody. Tonight in 4.5 minutes, we are joined by multiple guests to discuss the death penalty. We are joined by a widow and a rape victim, Emily Smith, who witnessed her husband get beaten and shot to death. In addition to Emily, we are joined by Professor Alfred Feinstein. It was very tough to get Alfred here. He's a great expert on the death penalty and justice, and he's going to give us his thoughts.
Hello, everybody. Now, everywhere you go, everybody you meet, there's always going to be a different definition of justice. However, I believe I have a simple definition that most people could probably agree with. Justice is based on desert, getting what one deserves, whether it's a reward for a good deed or a punishment for a crime. And also, as Aristotle would say, justice includes community working together for a common goal, typically peace, happiness, and prosperity. I think in order for justice to be secured in this case is to, as famous philosopher John Hosper said, let the victim decide the fate of the prosecuted. In other words, if Emily wanted McKinley to receive the death penalty, he should receive the death penalty. Also, in order for justice to be secured, two writers, Chekhov and Cato, have ideas that should be discussed. Chekhov believes that if you put somebody to death instead of sentencing them to life in prison, justice is better served for both parties because the victim and the civilians will both be safe. But at the same time, the criminal does not have to suffer a lifetime in prison, where he will most likely just lose his mind. Cato said that if the offender is killed immediately, then there is no longer a threat to society from that person. If the offender is left alive in prison, he could kill again in prison or escape and even victimize more innocent people. Myself and Cato are not the only people that believe in this philosophy. Another article that I have my students read by Claire Andre and Manuel Velasquez preaches the same thing. Only by putting murderers to death can society ensure that the convicted killers do not kill again. That is a direct quote from the article. The safety of society needs to be put before the welfare of the criminals. After I initially read the Andre Velasquez article, I felt I needed more understanding of the death penalty, and in my research, I came across an article published in the Boston Globe by a man named Jeff Jacoby. One part of this article stood out to me the most. Jeff Jacoby stated, life imprisonment is not enough. Some murderers kill behind bars, and some escape. Those are cold, hard facts. Now, I hate to repeat myself, but if innocent people are in danger of repeat killers, then we have to help society first. The killer should be put to death in order to protect the people.
A true expert. Now, Emily, we need a little more introduction. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience and how it relates to the death penalty?
Well, September 16th, 2004, and my husband John and I were going on a walk after dinner, just getting some fresh air. About a mile down the road, we were about to turn around when this old red pickup truck screeched to a stop right in front of us. The man who we now know was Douglas McKinley. He pointed a shotgun at us and told us to get in. He drove us about 20 minutes to a really big field where he drove to the end of the field, had us get out. Still pointing the gun, he had John and me cover his truck with a tarp, and we walked 10 more minutes back into the woods where McKinley had a camp set up. John had made an attempt to fight McKinley off, but he didn't win. McKinley hit him in the face with the shotgun and knocked out John. This whole time I was numb. I couldn't think otherwise. I would have run. Anyway, when John woke up, McKinley continued to kick him and beat him up. Then he just shot him and left him there. For 3 days I was raped and beaten over and over again. When I was finally able to escape, I just ran and ran for I don't even know how long. I don't even remember running away. I got help, and within an hour McKinley was behind bars. We had a trial and McKinley ended up being the perpetrator for many similar cases. He received the death penalty, and that is why I'm here today.
Wow, Emily, what a traumatizing experience that must have been. How did you react to McKinley getting the death penalty, and what were your thoughts?
Well, obviously I wanted revenge. I didn't want this man to be alive. It was just too scary of a thought to know that he could escape from prison or something. So it made me feel safe when I found out he could never get to me or anybody else ever again. At the same time, it was like this man's dead partly because of me. Or at least that's how I felt. That's when I sought guidance. I went to therapy to talk about everything. However, I looked on the internet and I found a similar case to mine. It was a case of Robert Lee Willie and how he raped Debbie Cuevas and killed her husband. I read the response Debbie's parents had given, and I found myself agreeing with everything they said, especially when they said that Willie gave up his right to live when he killed their daughter.
Thank you, Emily. I'm glad you finally feel safe with McKinley off the streets. Now we're going to go back to Professor Feinstein. Hello again, Albert. Can you give us your final thoughts on Emily's experience and the death penalty in general?
Here, let me add. I recently had my students read and annotate an interesting piece by John Locke, another famous philosopher. In the text, the law states, nobody can be put to death unless they have killed another human being. In this particular case, I believe we should listen to Locke, because it is evident to me that McKinley had lost the right to live when he killed John Smith. However, in this particular case, I don't think the death penalty is enough. More is necessary to make sure this does not happen again. I'm a big fan of a writer named Camus, and a piece he wrote called Reflections on the Guillotine. In this piece, Camus talks about how the death penalty needs to change for it to be successful punishment and deterrent. He believed that in order for the death penalty to be most effective, it should be broadcasted on live TV for all to see. This type of people needs to be shamed. McKinley's death should be broadcasted on live television for anybody who wants to see it. This will leave an impact on the community that will last.
Thank you again, Alfred. I think what you can take away from tonight is that the death penalty is just because everybody feels safer if the killer can never strike again. And also, it is only just for the killer to be dead if he murders an innocent person. So thank you for watching, and we'll be back again next week.